Once upon a time, in a world blanketed by snow as far as the eye could see, there was a little girl named Clara. Bundled up in a red woolen coat and matching mittens, she loved nothing more than wandering through the open fields near her home, her boots crunching against the frost-covered ground. Clara's imagination ran as wild as the snowstorms that often swept across the landscape, and she spent her days pretending she was an explorer, charting the uncharted. One chilly afternoon, as the golden sun dipped low in the sky, Clara noticed something unusual in the distance. It was a dark, round shape that seemed to mar the perfect whiteness of the field. Curious, she trudged closer, her breath forming little clouds in the frosty air. What she found made her gasp. It was a hole. A perfect round hole, rimmed with glistening frost. It was wide enough for her to climb into, and from its depths came the faintest glow of blue light. Clara knelt at the edge, her heart pounding with excitement and a hint of fear. "What are you doing here?" she whispered, as though the hole might answer. Then, without a second thought, she swung her legs over the edge and slid down. The fall was quick, but gentle, as if the air itself slowed her descent. Clara landed softly on a carpet of shimmering moss, her boots sinking slightly into the spongy ground. Above her, the hole she had fallen through was no longer visible. Just a canopy of glowing crystal trees that seemed to hum faintly, their branches shimmering like icicles. She gasped again, her eyes wide. This wasn't the snowy field she had left behind. This was a different world entirely. A soft tinkling sound drew her attention to her left. Turning, Clara saw a small creature with fur that sparkled like frost and eyes as bright as stars. It looked like a fox, but its ears were longer, and its tail swirled behind it like smoke. "Who are you?" Clara asked, crouching to meet the creature's gaze. The fox-like creature tilted its head and blinked. Then, to Clara's astonishment, it spoke. "I might ask you the same, stranger. What brings you to the frosted realm?" Clara blinked. I found a hole, and I was curious." "Curiosity," the creature said, nodding solemnly. "That's a good reason." The creature introduced itself as Solace, a guide of the frosted realm. He explained that the glowing trees and shimmering ground were part of a magical land beneath the snow, a world where adventure was always waiting for those brave enough to find it. "But beware," Solace warned, flicking his smoky tail. "Not all adventures are kind. Some will test your heart." Clara nodded, her curiosity outweighing her fear. "I'm ready," she said. Solace led her through the crystalline forest, where snowflakes hung suspended in the air like stars and rivers flowed with liquid light. They passed towering ice sculptures that seemed to move when Clara wasn't looking, and crossed bridges made of frost-covered vines. Soon, they came to a vast clearing where the ground sparkled like diamonds. In the center stood a giant clock made entirely of ice, its hands ticking slowly backward. "That," Solace said, "is the heart of the frosted realm. If you wish to stay, you must turn its hands forward again." Clara stared at the clock, her breath catching. "How do I do that?" "Only by finding the pieces of time," Solace said. "They are scattered throughout the frosted realm, hidden by those who guard them. But be warned, the guardians will not give them up easily." Clara set off, Solace at her side. Along the way, she encountered riddles that twisted her mind, challenges that tested her courage, and guardians who demanded she prove her kindness and resolve. One guardian, a towering owl made of swirling snow, asked her a riddle. "What is fragile but powerful, fleeting yet eternal?" Clara thought for a long moment before answering. "A memory." The owl bowed its head and gave her a shimmering fragment of time. Another guardian, a frozen stag, stood in her path and said, "Only those who face their fears may pass." Clara hesitated, then stepped forward, her hands trembling. The stag nodded and stepped aside, revealing another fragment. Piece by piece, Clara collected fragments of time, her confidence growing with each challenge. By the time she returned to the clock, her arms were full of glowing fragments, and her heart felt lighter than it ever had before. She placed the fragments into the clock, and as the hands began to tick forward, the frosted realm seemed to come alive. The trees glowed brighter, the rivers sang louder, and Solace let out a joyful cry. "You've done it," the fox said, its tail swirling with excitement. Clara smiled, her cheeks flushed with pride. "What happens now?" "Now," Solace said, "you can return to your world, but you'll always carry a piece of this one with you." When Clara climbed back up through the hole and emerged into the snowy field, the sun had set and the stars were out. The frosted realm was gone, but in her pocket, she found a small, glowing shard, a reminder of her adventure. As she walked home, her footsteps crunching in the snow, Clara smiled to herself. She had discovered a magical world, faced her fears, and learned that sometimes the greatest adventures begin with a single step into the unknown. Even the coldest, quietest places can hold worlds of wonder, waiting for those brave enough to find them. The end.